Hello everyone, I'm Mike from the Self App, and thank you for listening to the Self App podcast. This is a show where we discuss all things good thoughts, good words, good deeds related, and interview people passionate about being their best self and who are helping others to be their best self too. Some of the segments include Coaching Clinic, where we talk to psychologists, motivational thinkers, and life coaches. Book Club, where we discuss and share reviews on our favourite books. Startup Spotlight, taking a pre-seed and more often than not non-techie view on starting a business and running a business. Health and Fitness Hustle, where we provide tips, tricks and training from experts. And Esoteric Edge, a look at hidden or secret philosophy and how it can help you be your best self. If you haven't already, please download the Self App, where we deliver you a collection of tools to help you be your best self, and 3% of all our profits are donated to charity. Hello everyone, I'm Mike from the Self App. Thank you for tuning in today. Today it's my privilege to introduce you to Brooke Saucier. Brooke is a serial networker with an innate sense of making strategically successful introductions. Brooke is relentless in striving to connect people, companies and ideas that sync. Since founding Knektar, Brooke has created avenues for professionals to find mutually beneficial reasons for knowing each other. A true curator of opportunities, Brooke enjoys facilitating various connections related to business development, strategic partnership, or investment opportunity for colleagues, clients, and friends. Today, we're going to learn about the power behind networking and building connections from a very busy bee. Brooke, I'm fascinated to learn a little bit more about Knektar today and what inspired you to create it and what is it in its current form?
So, very good to see you, and I'm glad that relentless was in my bio, my self-written bio, but I'm so glad you didn't mention forgetful. So thank you for your kind forgiveness and allowing me to forget one of our scheduled recordings of this podcast. It's a great day to be connecting. So how did Knektar get started? It really kind of started without a name. It's something I've done for a long time, is just listen for the keywords. What are people looking to meet? Who are they looking to meet? What are they looking to talk about? And then, I created the Knektar just as an email address, so I wouldn't be connecting people with a Gmail. And it just has kind of grown over the last several years. So it's what my brain's going to do anyway, and I say that a lot, but it's fun to have a business that's around what my brain is going to do.
Got it. And one of the things that I know that you're passionate about doing is as you said, connecting people from all walks of life and for all purposes. And some of the things you don't know whether they're going to hit or miss. You're just really trying to sync people with ideas. Tell us a little bit about some of the people that you've connected that have gone on to make an impact, because I think some of the stories that have come back to me have been absolutely phenomenal.
So it's just some of them can be so close geographically, where they're in the same building. And I lived in Evanston, Illinois, which is just north of Chicago, for 24 years. And I was a part of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce. And there were people in our building that had probably crossed paths in the elevator or whatever, but they had never met. But just my knowing what each of them did, and being able to put them together allowed them to start doing business together. But then there could be, geography could be boundless. I know I've introduced you to someone in Australia, Fiona, and just because y'all are two of the 5 people that I know in Australia. Haven't met anyone in person, but other things is finding investors for startups where they've run out of uncles to speak with, and then being able to introduce my friend Walter with Meta Wine, being able to introduce him to Peter Houghton, who has steadily invested in Walter, an initial time, a second, and a third time, and just has been there as more of a consigliere than just an investor who's calling to check in on his investment all the time. So.
That's phenomenal. And one of our other podcast guests who was introduced by you to me is the amazing Luna Delgado.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
She is, isn't she? And
my wife is going to hear that name and run in and say, Luna.
Oh, she's brilliant. And my wife and I can't wait to get her back on to record some meditation. I mean, she is just out of this world.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that information.
But
her story is not a traditional one of a startup, and actually the amount of grit and hard work that was involved in starting her business, and how integral you were to where she is today is really great. So tell us a little bit about that without kind of spoiling any secret sauce.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I just remember sitting in a coffee shop with her, and she's talking about getting a loan from a friend, or finding, she was talking to me about marketing her products and what she wanted to do. And it's like she almost had to whisper the words $10,000, just like, yes, it's a lot of money, but, and then 6 months later to hear her, after having spoken with, her brother who was helping her a lot, and to, some of my friends who have considered investing in Luna Delgado Botanicals, and, just getting more and more advice along the way. And then for her at the, 6 months later to be talking about, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to do a note, whatever they, a safe, in terms of investor, how to, whatever deal she's going to do, like what return she's going to give. And so she, just in 6 months, like not having an idea about, what kind of, return on investment to give to her investors. But then that has been a fun journey to watch, and to know that I, some of the introductions I've made to her have helped her get that way. So
it is absolutely scintillating, and it's the key reason I wanted to get you on the show and have you share in your own words, and maybe this is something. Let me preface this. So I might put some context in here if you don't mind. I come from Australia, as you know, and over here I don't really think networking is as appreciated or is as much of an art, maybe except by the elect few who have had exposure to the way it's done in the US at grassroots level, right? But there is so much energy and power in the way, as you said, individuals network and help each other and look for avenues to really elevate each other. And in a Western society where individualism is kind of peak, and that's it, it's hard for a lot of people to get their heads around that. Can you tell us in your own words, what do you see the power is of networking, and why are you so passionate about it? What gives you the thrills to continue to do it, even though in many cases you're not monetizing it?
Right. So first of all, I'd like to say convertible note is the phrase that I was trying to come up with 10 seconds ago. It does come around. So the power, like I said before, my brain is going to do it. It makes me feel good. It's, it's endorphins, it's oxytocin. There's something in there that, if I can shrink time for someone and get them to a resource that can help them, whether that's direct investment, a coach, a marketing expert, an SEO expert, somebody, Sonny Sultana, somebody, Keith Glantz, like who can help them get to where they deserve to be, and and whether it's monetized or not, that I've shown that it's possible, but it's not why I'm in there doing it. Um, but there are direct, I can try to introduce someone to a direct potential client. That's great. But if I can introduce them to a potential partner who could introduce them to 5 clients at a time, I mean, it's, teaching someone how to fish, or just giving someone a fish. There's a parable there. So it's definitely a passion, and it's been fun to even figure that out, that it is a passion, and that there's some value to it. People arguing with me like, "Oh, I'm going to pay you for this." I stop arguing after that. But this is worth something to me, and being able to go back and ask questions about how I could do something better, make an introduction better, and learning from other connectors out there who are just very open and willing to share some of the better practices of making and maintaining an introduction, because that kind of knowledge, I'm a learning human, and I say that all the time. Like, I want to know, like, I am so delighted that Luna was a guest on this podcast. I knew that I had introduced you, but I'm not a mind reader, and that's fine. I love knowing and figuring out that some hunch that I had months or years ago, has borne fruit.
And to give you further validation, let me jump in, because you, in a past incarnation for me, in a commercial sense, introduced me to Sunny Sultana, who you referenced before. And it was eerie because you'd actually introduced me to a couple of other people that I was talking to about solving a really critical problem in operational debt at a pre-seed startup. And it was tough as to how we were going to go to market and shape really what was going to be the destiny of this firm's sales funnel. And I think it took me about 2 months of trawling the market from East Coast to West Coast in the US, and I couldn't find the solution I needed. And being a startup, everything was happening on the smell of an oily rag,
sure.
Right? And
yeah,
then randomly you said, "Hey, look, you got to talk to Sunny," and it wasn't even in the context of the problem I was looking at. You were just like, right, because we were catching up, we were just popping off and talking about how we were going to buy a kayak, which is kind of like a kayak version of a yacht, So if we could ever make that kind of money, it wouldn't be the Abramovich yacht, but it was going to be something we
can drive ourselves. I don't need a staff or a crew.
Oh, that'd be nice. Some silk cushions would be okay, but that's our kayak. And the kayak, I love it. And when we connected, I didn't really know what to expect, right? I knew that you were this consummate connector. You cared intimately about making valuable connections. And I just learned, if Brooke is trying to pop something up against the wall, more often than not, it's going to stick. I met with Sunny, and I can tell you that it was immediate resonance, and I had a light bulb moment. I mean, to fill in our audience, Sunny runs a digital consultancy. He's a data scientist. He's a platinum partner with, an omni-channel solution, and he is also one of the most brilliant ad buyers and lead gen experts, I think, for small business. I'll probably even have to get him on the show after this just to introduce you all to Saucier. He's amazing. And the funny thing is that I went, this is
He's
everything
a terrible speller,
I need.
by the way. Yeah.
Oh, is he? So, I immediately checked all the boxes. Yeah. I went, this is the guy we need to put the little money we have into to build our funnel. And naturally, our executive committee were wanting to make sure it was the right call. Again, they'd been through the process with me for 2 months. We'd spoken to thousands of, probably not literally, but I would say dozens of SEO experts and ad buying experts and lead gen people and outsourced sales teams and all those sorts of things, to get to the point where a marketing team who had no direct sales experience sat on the first call with Sunny and went, "Mike, the heavens open up, this is our guy." And I went, that's Brooke. That's Brooke did this for us. And it was funny because, we, as I said, we went from East Coast to West Coast. We didn't, geography wasn't a problem for us. And you found us someone who was right in downtown Chicago. And it turns out, you'd actually introduced our CEO to him before. He loved Sunny and had been meaning to connect us just to talk data science and some things like that, but for some other projects we were thinking about doing. And everything seemed to align. And I think that is really how I would sum you up, Brooke, is you just seem to be this human being that carries synchronicity with you and makes synchronicity happen. And I absolutely encourage everyone to connect with you after this podcast if they're listening.
If they're listening, yes. And just like, that's a great example. Like, I could have found, 10 restaurants, 10 hotels for you to call and hopefully find a client. But, putting you, like putting someone very talented like yourself with someone very talented like Sunny, I knew that, I didn't know that the resonance would be there, but I knew that, y'all could figure something out. And that's kind of been the shift in mindset, is not offering myself as a fractional sales business development person, but someone who can shrink time and find solutions, find resources, find subject matter experts. And that's where I'm spending a lot of my energies, is just getting people to coaches, to sales, lead generators, and SEO and marketing and investors, because just knowing the top three the top three things that would check boxes for two sides, and then putting them together and letting them talk it out and figure out how to make beautiful music.
So running Knektar, which is purely a side hustle for you as a business, you've got a day job that you've got to pay the bills and make sure that you're apportioning your time sparingly. One of the questions I like to ask my guests is, as they're facing adversity or facing the challenge of juggling multiple balls, how do you overcome your fear? What motivates you to overcome your fear and face these blockers? And how has that helped you be your best self?
Yeah, it's allowing myself to have many failures. So let's try to avoid the epic failures, but allowing yourself to learn from the many failures. So, I mean, no joke, like last week, missing our schedule, I probably got up to 10 minutes before I had even thought about it. And the excuse of being busy is not an excuse, but it's now learning to trying to again to check my calendar the day before, or check it 2 days before. If there's something that's going to be an issue, just say no and reschedule, or try to reschedule where it's not 10 minutes before, or 1 minute, or 10 seconds. But I know that I learned from that, because today someone tried to schedule a meeting for me that looked too chock-a-block, and it wasn't going to be the end of the world, but so we moved it a day, and it just makes everything better. And I used a coach, a professional coach, who was learning his craft, getting his ICF certification. And so, our 6-week project was to help me try to handle my calendar a little better. So take it in little chunks. And so it makes me, it made me feel terrible missing our appointment last week. But then things, make me feel good when I do things that I know is going to save me time or save me energy throughout the day or throughout the week. Little things.
I understand, and I had a wonderful guest just this week on, Christy, who we both know.
Yeah.
And she shared a wonderful piece of insight that it's not about you, and it just don't take it personal. And I don't take it personal, and I can understand. you are a bolt of lightning, and it's swept up in your passion, and it's challenging. And I think it's a really good bit of feedback for everyone, where sometimes you can get carried away, and sometimes you forget time, and you lose track of things, and you got three different things sandwiched at the one spot, and you're like, uh-oh, how do I deal with those things? And the reality is, on the other side, no one takes it personally. We know it's not personal. But it's great that you equally are taking a really considered approach to your learning and see it as an opportunity for growth and an opportunity for structure. And really, that's what I'm taking away from what you've just shared. So thank you.
Yeah,
It's a wonderful bit of sharing. I want to ask you, who and what are you thankful for in your life?
So, I'm really thankful for, the partners that play along. That question comes up. Whom do you want to meet, or what can I do to help you? And my answer is usually just play along. So I'm going to have emails, and you've been on the receiving end of these emails. Like, hey, I had a thought that you should meet so and so, and here's why. I'm going to ask them the same question, and then if both of you say yes, I'm gonna put you together and let y'all figure it out. In 5 seconds you could figure out that it was a bad idea, or in 5 hours later you can figure out it's a good idea. So I'm thankful for the people who get me right away. Like, I know what you're doing. You're not trying to help me sell 10 more widgets. You're trying to help me find someone who can help me sell 100 widgets. So I'm thankful for my wife, who lets me babble through my day job and taking some time. I'm thankful for my boss, my mother-in-law, who owns the building that I work for. She knows that a couple hours a day I'm on a Zoom meeting here and there. She loves it. She loves that I'm there helping the tenants in the building, but she also loves that I'm doing things that keep me excited. And so just surrounding myself with fans is an easy way to feel good and to take care of myself.
Absolutely. It's one of them. Thank you for both your wife and your mother-in-law for taking care of you too.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Brilliant.
Anyone else left out?
Absolutely. So what's the next challenge or the next summit that you want to take Knektar to? What are you really looking to achieve as the next horizon for the connection business?
Thank you. And part of your question about learning and self-care, so finding, and it's a journey along the way, like finding what I'm really good at, and what I like. Just a couple weeks ago, someone made a proposal for me to help them sell their products, and it seemed like from their proposal that they were expecting me to be kind of a rainmaker, and just knowing that I didn't have the time, or it was not going to be a lucrative partnership, and I not begged out, but just said, look, I will refer people to you when they come in mind. You don't need to pay me. You're doing a lot of good for nonprofits and social enterprise companies. Like, let's just keep it as we'll keep in touch, and I'll keep talking. So that made me feel good, because I didn't get myself into a situation where expectations were going to be too high and I would drag down. But just helping someone like Luna, I'm not helping her every day, far from it, but knowing that I probably was a little bit of a catalyst at the beginning, and then to see where she's going to end up, and helped by some of the people that I introduced her to, like that's a win for me. And there are some companies like that I've been working with for years, and when they quote unquote make it big, they'll I won't be left behind. So to know that I can find myself in 3 or 4 years with 4 or 5 partnerships, or you know, engagements that they're at a growth level that is, nigh unstoppable. Like that's where I want Knektar to get to is, still helping, someone meet someone that's going to help their business, whether, if they've started, 2 days before, or, nurturing those other companies along in their later startup years. So that's, and honestly, there's probably some bit of Knektar, what's going to happen in 5 years, I have no idea about now. So that's the fun part.
It is. It sounds like you're on a fantastic ride, and it sounds like it's a really worthy aspiration. I certainly hope that just one of the people I know, which I've been fortunate to meet, which is Luna, absolutely takes, the sky's the limit for her. She is an absolute rock star in the making.
Yeah.
Again, it's not about promoting Luna today, but I would say go out and buy her botanicals because you will be validating just how good this man is. So, thank you. On a final note, Brooke, I want to ask you a question I ask all our guests is, what's a key piece of insight or advice that you can offer listeners to help them be their best self?
Best self. Just listen. Allow yourself to learn. Don't, just because you've done something 9 times, don't do it the 10th just because that's the way you've always done it, your parents have always done it, your boss has always done it. Like, just, don't think that just, if you're in a job that you don't like, there's always something better, whether, allow yourself to pay yourself a quality of life, dividend. Like, if you can take another job that doesn't pay as much, but you can be happier, you can smile, go find that. Go find what makes you happy. And I know people are going to say it to you from your 20s to your 60s, but it's a lot better if you find it in your 20s or 30s.
Amazing. That's a brilliant capstone piece of advice. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps us up for today. I want to thank you for coming on to the Self-App podcast and all that you've actually done to contribute to some of our speakership. If people want to find out more about Knektar, where can they visit you?
Sure. So they can come to my website, Knektar.com, Knektar, right up there. Knektar.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn, Brooke Saucier. I'm one of the few Brooke Sauciers, I think. Definitely one of the few male Brooke Sauciers out there.
Fantastic. So I will share those links in the podcast with our audience so that you can find. Please connect with him. He is a phenomenal human being and a wonderful connector. I also want to say that I please continue to share stories with me, and if there's another opportunity that you'd love to come on the show and help us learn, where Knektar's going towards that aspiration of you helping these, solopreneurs skyrocket, I would love to be involved. But for now, Brooke, I want to thank you and thank our audience for listening. And to our audience, before you go, I ask that you do us a good deed. Please share this with one other person and leave us a 5-star rating wherever you're tuned in. For more best self goodness, you can find us on social by searching for the Self App. From us to you, keep up the good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and continue to level up your best self. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, mate.